everyone. That was weird. I was meant to play my intro video and it said your browser failed to play the video clip. So fuck my browser, I guess. How is everyone? Guys, I'm surprised I'm here, to be honest. I'm surprised I'm here. I'm going to be honest with you. This Dynamite left me feeling cold. It left me feeling uninspired. Just blah. It wasn't even a bad show. And I was high on the pay-per-view. I liked the pay-per-view ending a lot. But I watched this and I just felt like, no, things are just there's just too many problems. I don't know. We'll get into it. But yeah, I was feeling like, I was thinking this afternoon, like maybe I should just cancel my stream and do it tomorrow and try and build up like the energy to talk about this show or to feel something for this show and what is happening other than just like a blah and a disappointment that is more about this state of AEW as a whole rather than this particular show. But I feel like I kind of not bullied, but like made sure that Benno did his Grapple Weekend show when he felt the same about Dynamite. So I was like, well, I'm going to have to do it because I pushed someone else to like go on and talk about this show when I myself don't feel like the energy to do it. And yeah, it was just a weird feeling Dynamite. And this Jon Moxley storyline is very well produced, very well performed. Moxley is always great. Marina is badass. Marina is the actual ultimate like action hero. She's so cool. But overall, I just get the sense that this may be good artistically, but it's not what we need for where we're at right now. This idea of building the promotion, the heels having these big problems with the promotion, it just never seems to really work. The NWO is like the great exception, but they end up being so cool if they would turn baby faces. And the other thing that the NWO had going for it was Hulk Hogan being the leader, not just because he was Hulk Hogan, but because it was shocking to see him play a heel. And it just very much feels like everyone is aware that the company is going through this lull. And now it's like, let's make it part of the storyline. And I'm just not sure that's the right direction. So let's go through the show. I'm going to go through it like basically in order so that I don't miss anything big. So we started off with one of these great, well-shot, cinematic promos from Moxley and his gang coming straight after WrestleDream. Very well done. Worth noting, Bryan Danielson, kayfabe dead, and that wasn't acknowledged on the show in the way of, any kind of tribute to Danielson or talking about him and what he represented and that being taken away from AEW or gone. It's just kind of like Danielson's, dead, and this is a new day, I guess. But really good promo from Moxley. But here's my criticism, right? He's basically saying he hates what AEW's become. There's egos out of control. People dancing and partying when there's no need for it. There's 150 wrestlers under contract. He kind of alluded to the fact that like the young guys haven't been elevated. Though in kayfabe, I guess they haven't stepped up. And I'm watching it being like, yeah, I agree with all this stuff. I too have a lot of problems with what AEW's become. I've talked about this before, but like when AEW started, it's like the most optimistic I've ever been for anything in my life. And I think that's why it's like hard when AEW A is either bad on TV or is bad like with company practices or just kind of does the wrong thing because they really give you something to believe in day one. When they, you know, I'll never forget the first AEW press conference. And like the feeling in that moment. And so hearing Moxley say these things, I feel like I'm agreeing with him. Like I often talk about how amazing those early Dynamites were when you saw like a Darby Allin versus Jericho. That was a big match, right? And you had that feeling in that day that give it like a year and you would have Darby Allin being like a top guy, like champion. And like Darby's not the best example because he's done pretty well. But there were other guys like Sammy Guevara, right? He got a match against Cody being a big star. And it just turned out that what they were actually going to do was fill up the roster with ex-WWE people as soon as they became available. So Moxley saying this stuff, and I'm like, your delivery is great. The writing's great. Shout out RJ City. It's apparently him that's, you know, helping produce all this. All this is great. I shouldn't be agreeing with it. Wheeler Yuta, there was no explanation for his turn. I've seen some people say they wanted that. I just read it as a very much like a feeling of like you have to join them because they've won, like the bad guys have won, and either I'm gonna join them or be taken out by them. So it was good, but it set up all the problems that we were going to see later in Dynamite. And I'm going to steal something from the lads at Wrestle Culture that I love a lot, right? Shout out to Adam Wilborn, Michael Sidgwick, and Michael Haflett, that we're talking about this idea of now, because of this storyline that Moxley's doing, different wrestlers have to be in different worlds. So we have the world that Jon Moxley is occupying, where he wants to tear down the company and rebuild it in his image. And that is affecting people like Private Party, Orange Cassidy, Darby Allin, Daniel Garcia, the freaking Dark Order, right? Then we have people in other worlds that it's not affecting. So let's talk about someone in another world, Adam Cole. Adam Cole and MJF are not affected by what Jon Moxley is doing, which is funny because if I could ask Jon Moxley to take out any two people, it would be MJF and Adam Cole. I'm only joking. I'm not. No, I feel bad saying that about Adam Cole because he's a great man, but MJF is he's lost goodwill with me, right? He's in the doghouse. He's probably going to be there for a long time. So MJF and Adam Cole, let's have the explanation of why the roles are reversed. So Adam comes out. He's told Lottie and the Kingdom that he has to do this on his own. So I guess that's tying up that story. What about Wardlow? Wardlow, apparently he called Wardlow, but Wardlow was out in his tracky bottoms getting his fags. That's what I heard anyway. It's just a callback to how Wardlow had been looking through his entire run in the Undisputed Kingdom anyway. So MJF is like an evil guy. You can't trust him. He terrorized AEW for 5 years. MJF is fake. He's had 2 herb transplants. He only cares about himself. If you talk about him online, he cries in his hotel room. And Cole's sick that young guys look at MJF and he hates him and he calls him out. MJF, we get a pre-taped thing, drinking some red wine. He basically said that Cole stabbed him in the back. He'll never trust anyone again. Cole wants revenge, but he's never going to get it. MJF won't fight him. Okay. I said this during my WrestleDream review. I don't know why we have to go back to this. Like, this storyline was so detrimental. It has to be left in the past. You're making us try and care about it again while retconning it to fit where the characters are, when MJF never should have been a babyface. Adam Cole shouldn't have been a heel. The devil thing was awful. And MJF, has a ton of creative freedom in AEW. Like more, I think more than people think, right? So now it's like when a heel is doing a promo on MJF, right? He's fake. He's had a hair transplant. And he cries on social media. And he's now allegedly had 2 hair transplants. I can believe that because the hair is wild. And he definitely cries about things people say on social media. If you saw WrestlePurist on Monday, like he did a run-in in the middle of the show to basically do a promo saying he would address this. And that is so cool for WrestlePurist. Everyone should be watching WrestlePurist every stream they do. And I always watch the Monday night show with Ibu and Rob and Ao. And I watch, with Monty and love the guys at WrestlePurist, right? But the fact that fucking MJF was like, however he got it, I guess he DM'd Ibu and said, I want to come on your stream. That, like, to me, that's so pathetic. Does he not have better things to do with his time? Like, this constant having to address the critics. And I think that's something that even if you like the character of MJF or you enjoy the MJF cult stuff, and say, even if I did, right, I didn't, but say I did, I think one of the other really bad points about it was what it showed of MJF as a person, like actual Maxwell Jacob Friedman, having to be on Twitter, like answering the critics all the time, doing this whole like self-pitying, I'm just trying my best thing, writing like big essays about it, in a way of just not being self-aware at all, but yet still continuing down this bad path. It was just all just too much. And I've said this before, but like I was hugely into MJF when AEW started. And one of the things I thought was so cool about him was that he was in character all the time. And he seemed so confident, self-assured, and unaffected. And as soon as this Cole and him thing got rolling, it turned out that was like a major facade, and he turned into someone who's just seemed deeply affected by everything. And that just kind of put me off him, because I just thought, like, dude, I thought you were cooler than that. And then, I saw the WrestlePurist thing on Tuesday when I was in the supermarket and I just had to laugh. I was like, wow, that's a, at least other terminally online wrestlers like CM Punk or even Triple H, they just scroll tweets through their burner accounts and pick up on things to do. But these kids, eh? Okay. Next, we had Renee backstage with Jericho. This was taped on Saturday night. So basically, Jericho, he's in the #1 movie in America, Terrifier 3. He's on tour with Fozzy, and he was going to become the 9-time champ, but Briscoe cheated, so he wants a rematch. So he'll become a 2-time Ring of Honor champion, just like Jay Briscoe. So then we see Mark Briscoe, and this is currently, he's with Renee. And he's like, oh, you brought up Jay once again, so I accept the challenge. Next week, ladder war for the Ring of Honor title. So I said that Jericho's match at WrestleDream was really good, and it was. I thought it was very good. But I did say before that I thought this whole storyline seemed unearned. This was like doubling down on it being unearned, right? So if Jericho loses on Wednesday, he just needs to mention Jay again so he can get another title shot. I think that if you were of the mind that this feud between Jericho and Mark was anything deeper than just Jericho mentioning Jay's name to get under Mark's skin, I don't think you have a leg to stand on for that argument, because there could have been something where Jericho initially made this Jay comment and then they went a bit deeper. Like, I still, this is one of those Jericho things of like, I can pull something out of someone. So what I'm going to pull out of Mark Briscoe, who's being very comical, is something more serious, something more like when he was with Jay. And I'm going to do that by using Jay. But he uses Jay to get the initial match. And then Mark wins that match in fine fashion. And then to get the next match, Jericho just mentions Jay again. So I find this incredibly lazy. Honestly, I don't know if it's just like he said he's on tour, so maybe his schedule doesn't allow for certain things, but this is the laziest way they could have set up the match. And to me, any goodwill that Jericho earned from A, having a good match with Mark Briscoe, and B, doing the job, has now been eradicated by this laziness. And I guess Jericho's going to win the title because, like, as Fernando in the chat says, he's not dropping 2 matches in a row to Mark. I don't think he is. No. So there's that then. And yeah, Terrifier 3. I'm not a horror movie fan, so I'm never going to watch the whole film, but I saw online people saying that, people tweeting about Jericho's death scene. So I looked up I watched a clip of his death scene in Terrifier. Wow. Yeah. If Moxley's gang could pull off something like that on TV, telling you the ratings would go through the roof. That was something. Okay. FTR then had a match against Big Bill and Brian Keith. That was fine. This was in aid of hurricane relief, or to draw attention to the hurricane relief. So that's absolutely wonderful. And it's great that they've done that on TV, and their constant mention of the hurricane relief, Tony Khan's donation, and what the company has done in general to help people affected. So that's awesome. When we move to the match, can't take Dax seriously at all anymore, due to the Wrestle Culture lads and what they did on the Raw review. They had a whole Deputy Dax joke that was too funny. And Dax is someone who, like I was saying about MJF, the way he acts online or has acted recently, just ruins the illusion of him. Dax is one of those people. He's someone that should not be on Twitter because you are never going to think this guy is cool again or think you want to hang out with this guy again once you see how he acts on Twitter. We had, so let me see. Okay, so backstage we have Rush, Jalistico, and Beast Mortos watching. And then the Outrunners came out at the end. This made me fear that we could see something between the Outrunners and Jericho. I guess it's because Big Bill and Brian Keith were in the match, but that was just my like initial fear, because I do think that he'd find that quite funny to work with the Outrunners. And I'm just like, I'm not a fan of the Outrunners, but I'm not a hater. I'll become a hater if they move too high up the card. They're like a nice little comedy act, but I do worry that because they're like a meme team that get a lot online, and they are genuinely funny guys. Like they are really, really funny when you hear them interviewed and stuff. I worry that they're going to get a push that's just not going to be suitable for higher up the card. We had in a segment then with the Acclaimed where Billy Gunn like left to get his car like a couple of seconds into it. And this was because MVP was going to walk in with Shelton and talk down to everyone. MVP's been giving out cards. Max Caster took it. Bowens did not. Don't want to see either of these guys in the Hurt Syndicate, but if I had to pick one, it would be Bowens. Caster's just one of those people or one of those characters that's just run his course, but Anthony Bowens has a lot of potential. And Caster's another person in the company that just feels a little like down as well. But that was the first instance we saw of MVP giving his cards and stuff, and we'll talk more about it later. But MVP and Shelton, a joy to behold, like the bright spot on this Dynamite. And maybe that's another reason that I felt more down than I thought I would on the Moxley stuff, because you see something like the Hurt Syndicate stuff that you think is that they have the potential to be so amazing, but look at the world, the promotion they're being dropped into. It's one where we have endless factions, and now like this crazed heel faction that are trying to tear down the whole company. And the more you think about this stuff, all these puzzle pieces don't fit together. Like I was saying, everyone exists in different worlds. So MVP and Shelton are running around in this world where they're trying to add guys to the group, whatever, completely unaffected by the Jon Moxley terrorizing of the roster, you know. And it's just so hard to do these storylines where everything makes sense. And like we just talked about Jericho, right? And someone with a stable, and some of the stuff that Mox was saying at the beginning of the promo could make you think that he should go after Jericho, but the universe that Jericho's in, Moxley and all this doesn't exist, because he's going after Mark for the Ring of Honor title. But Mark should be highly aware of what Moxley is doing, because he was out there when Brian was being attacked, and his pal Orange Cassidy is very much in it. But it's like Mark has to turn off that bit of his brain when the Jericho stuff is happening, because like that's connected. Like, do you know what I mean? This is why all this stuff is very hard to fit in together. And I'm going in a tangent. I'm sorry if I'm hard to follow, but the Wrestle Purist thing where Ibu said everyone that writes, you know, the different bits, who is responsible for what. So you've got RJ City, you've got Sanjay Dutt, you've got Will Washington. I truly believe these guys are like not allowed to talk to each other or something, because there's so much even still like repeating of stuff. on Dynamite, or stuff that doesn't make sense when you see what the other people are doing, and it's just like there's no cohesion in the promotion, and this Moxley storyline is just going to make that even more glaring. Yeah, like Moxley's sick of people having fun and 150 wrestlers and people taking advantage and whatever, and he killed Bryan Danielson, like this great baby face, and other baby faces like Orange Cassidy and Darby and Mark Briscoe were out there trying to like fend him off, but Mark Briscoe is having to put up his Ring of Honor title again against Chris Jericho, because Chris Jericho for the second time mentioned his dead brother, but like that's not something that affects Moxley. Like he doesn't see that as a bad thing in the company, so like he's just like leaving that one alone. And after Mark Briscoe gets probably lose his title to Chris Jericho, the next time that someone like Orange Cassidy or Darby Allin is in trouble, he'll be out there with them. But it's not as if Jericho's going to be on the heel side, because Moxley probably wouldn't like him if Moxley actually went through the roster. Ugh, it's a lot. Anyway, Mercedes Moné defeated Queen Aminata. This was absolutely fine. Queen Aminata, someone that I'm a big supporter of, and every time I see her, I just want to see more of her. And she's spent some time in the Ring of Honor verse, and Ring of Honor is still holding Athena hostage. And I'm just kind of, Monet for me hasn't delivered. And I find it like, obviously, she's not as bad as Saraya. Right? I'm never saying that. And she's not bad at all. But I do feel like it might be another one of those situations like when Saraya came in, it was the wrong time, because even if she didn't suck, which she does, but even if she didn't, you were having this great like rise of Jamie Hayter and her stuff with Britt Baker. That was something that was truly AEW. And then you stuck an ex-WWE person in there. And Mercedes is way more of an ex-WWE person than like a Toni Storm is. And I kind of feel like Mercedes' place now is really only getting us away from like the Willows, the Queen Aminatas, the Athenas, even the Mariah May, who is currently the women's world champion, but Mercedes is like held in higher esteem, and it's just like a lot, you know. But anyway, look, more for Queen Aminata. She deserves it. She deserves it. So Renee was backstage with Private Party. They want the Young Bucks there. Zay and Quinn said they were close to winning the titles and they want another shot. Matthew said he was wrong, that they were a mid-card act. Nicholas said that doesn't work for us, brother. That's their last title shot. They walk off the Bucks. Stokely says, why do Zay and Quinn deserve another title shot when they've been here since the Obama administration? Suggests next time they lose, Private Party should be done. Stokely says everyone knows Quinn is the star. He walked off. And Zed said, if that's what it takes. So anyway, maybe we're getting the end of Private Party if they lose the next match. I don't see why Private Party deserve another title shot either. Yeah, and I've lost my train of thought. Oh, yeah. I don't know. Maybe like the Young Bucks have a dead relative that Private Party can mention, and they'll be handed a title shot. I don't know if that only works with Mark Briscoe, but yeah. Stokely, don't understand what happened with Stat. It seems like every time he gets something going, it's taken away from him. Private Party should have had like a really big match on this show or something if we want to continue telling this story. We had a fucking bizarre thing because it was Kenny Omega's birthday and they had a cake that Jack Perry threw intestines on. It was all like rather gross. I think the only thing that stands out about this is there is part of me that wonders if the savior we are all waiting for is Kenny Omega and not Darby Allin. Like if Kenny is gonna ride in and save the day. And I just really don't know when it comes to Kenny's health. I know he's been teasing Japan stuff, and like Coda has been posting about him. I'll say this, Kenny Omega to me is the greatest wrestler of my lifetime. The greatest wrestler of all time to me, and I'm not saying like who my favorite is, but it's probably either Shawn Michaels or Kenny Omega, but Kenny is like how wrestling has evolved. Kenny is amazing. And if he's the guy that is going to come and stop Moxley, I still don't think that will do for AEW what needs to be done, really. But I miss Kenny so much. Like, I truly, truly miss him. And Kenny has his, Kenny had many week-to-week moments where he, as a character, wasn't doing stuff that I enjoyed. But he's the greatest in-ring performer that I have seen the peak of while it was happening. I miss him so much. But yeah, I think the kick stuff was gross. Like, we don't need that. And yeah, that was that. So then we had Orange Cassidy, Kyle O'Reilly, and Rocky Romero defeating Okada and the Bucks via disqualification. Okay, so this was really more about the post-match. So Wheeler Yuta, he came in and attacked Orange Cassidy. And then the Elite just bail out of the ring. So then you've got John, Marina, Claudio, and Pac. Pac had a briefcase. Maybe that's where they're keeping the title belt. They're fighting the conglomeration. Top Flight and Action Andretti come out. They're taken care of. The Elite are just watching it. The Dark Order come out. Jack Perry comes out. Claudio takes Alex Reynolds' belt off. Shafir is choking it. That was the visual of the night. Moxley said, if you're involved in any way, shape, or form with AEW, you're under attack. If you don't like it, this is a cost of doing business. BCC leaves to the crowd. We get Daniel Garcia, Private Party, Christopher Daniels out to help everyone. The Elite are then approached by Arcady Aura and asked why they didn't do anything. Garcia and Private Party ask why they're not doing this since they're EVPs. And the Elite leave. Nicholas says in due time. And Garcia says he has Private Party's back. So I guess this is them showing Moxley's gang taking over and trying to show how the Elite, who basically had a failed attempt to take over a company that they're already EVPs of, they just don't want to get involved in this. It's weird because when you think about the Moxley storyline, you kind of have to think about it in the context of what they were trying to do with the Elite when Tony took that TK driver and it all just went to shit. And there was some very interesting reporting a couple of days ago from Wade Keller about this, which I find to be incredibly bizarre, where Wade Keller said that one of the big reasons why this Elite takeover AEW storyline didn't work and wasn't allowed to flourish is because Tony Khan doesn't want anyone thinking, even on TV, that he's not the one booking AEW. If that's true, and the reporting came from Wade, so I believe it, that's a bad insight into Tony Khan's mind. He has to let go of that idea, right? It's 2024. We can all be adults and know that he is the booker. Everything is his decision. So even on TV, if the Elite had completely taken him out, we never got Christopher Daniels doing bad acting, and we were thinking that the Bucks were in control of the company. we all would know that Tony Khan's still in control of the company. Like, that was just such a weird story. And if he really thinks like that, I'm not really sure if the wrestling business is for him. It's like when any wrestler that refuses to lose, I don't think the wrestling business is for you, Malachi Black. And Tony, yeah, I mean, like, when Vince McMahon, sorry to say his name, was on TV doing stuff with Austin, and we had like that whole feud, like, we all still knew that Vince McMahon was the booker and head of the company and whatever. And it's like Tony has this weird insecurity where he hates when people think something he does is bad, and he's very sensitive to criticism. But at the same time, if someone was to say, like, for example, before when he defended Jimmy Jacobs after All In and said that people online said negative things about Jimmy Jacobs and he wanted everyone to know that it's him that makes the final decision, it's like he doesn't want criticism. He's too sensitive to it. But at the same time, he wants to take responsibility for everything, because what's worse for him is people thinking that he's not the one in charge, and yeah, it's the wrestling business. So I kind of liked what they did with the Elite here, because the Elite are like goofballs, like, and they're cowards. So it does make sense that they would just be like, hey, I want to stay out of the path of Jon Moxley. Private Party, I get that they're being built up, but when I see Private Party, Top Flight, and Action Andretti and the Dark Order being involved in this, it worries me that we don't have strong enough baby faces for the babyface side not to be just full of people that are geeks and have been devalued. Action Andretti, geek, sorry. The Dark Order have far outstayed their welcome in AEW. And then Daniel Garcia stepping up is really good. Is he going to get revenge on MJF, who just completely emasculated him, stepped on his neck, stepped on many things, acted incredibly selfish at the pay-per-view? Very, like, Tony, take responsibility for that, like what he let Max go out and do at the pay-per-view to Danny. No reference to that. I want to see Danny go after Jack Perry and take the TNT title, but it seems like he right now is the one that's like in charge of the undercard baby phases, day one people who haven't risen. Like, that's his role, and it's just, yeah. I don't know. It's all a convoluted mess. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I really wanted things to be good. I really did. Okay, here's something that was great. Shelton Benjamin versus Lio Rush. These two guys were excellent. They both played their roles so well. Shelton Benjamin, I've said I wasn't high on Shelton coming in. I was kind of like, I fucking love MVP. Okay, Bobby Lashley, that's good. Shelton was the one I could take or leave. Well, he proved himself, because I know that people feel like Shelton didn't get a fair shake, but a lot of the time when they were showing like best of Shelton Benjamin matches, they were around a decade old. This is now the most recent like best Shelton Benjamin match. This was fucking awesome. And we can't like not give flowers to Lio Rush, who was excellent. He knew exactly his role. He played it. This was so good. And watching it, yes, it further made me not on board with the Moxie storyline, because I was just like, these guys are just are great, but like they're in a universe that isn't the Moxley universe. And then I started wondering, because Swerve to me was such a great champion, what if Swerve was still champion, a babyface champion, and these were the heels, and that was the company's top storyline, but this was just great. So like, congratulations, Shelton Benjamin. He looked amazing, and it's great to see Lio Rush back. I know he's left before and come back, and I know people are like, or maybe like trepidatious about investing in him, but give the guy another chance. He was on it here, and he delivered. So MVP gave his business card to Lio Rush at the end. I think he'd be a pretty good fit. It would be great to have like a high flyer guy in there. He'd be a nice contrast to Shelton and Bobby because he's so much smaller than him. So then they basically they called out Swerve Strickland. They need to finish what they started at WrestleDream. So then we have Renee backstage with Swerve and Nana. They're apparently there but didn't come out. He accepts the challenge from Shelton anytime, anywhere. So that match is coming, Swerve versus Shelton. Based on what I saw from Shelton on this week's Dynamite, I'm hot for that. I love how Bobby Lashley hasn't come in yet, and we haven't had a lull in this. This is great. MVP, just fucking go give your business card to every good guy on this, like every good worker on this roster, and just form your own promotion. Excellent stuff. Like, loving these guys. Okay, we had a press conference with Don Callis. This must be some kind of rib after Don Callis's performance at the WrestleDream post-scrum. If you don't know, Don Callis is very in with F4W online people, and I'm not going to call him a mark, but he really loves to pop the boys, does old Don Callis. So Don Callis said that there's like no actual press because like none of the wrestling media are good. And like the previous times that AEW has tried to do a press conference using wrestling media, one of the people they used was Eric Bischoff, and another person was a guy that takes 40 grand from someone that he's meant to be covering. So yeah, the wrestling media aren't good if you're going by who AEW use on their TV, but that's just an aside. He was there with Brian Cage. People were confused as why Brian Cage was there. I have to say, like, I couldn't give a fuck. Because the Callis family is just a revolving door, but at least now they're all heels. So why did Kyle Fletcher do what he does? It's because everyone is talking about Will Ospreay, I guess. The Callis family is strong. Takeshita is the international champion. He acquired Lance Archer. This was just pointless. This was just to get the Callis family on TV. Kyle, I don't think came across well. Takeshita, I wish he wasn't part of this family. Lance Archer and Brian Cage being there. Visually good, but don't really buy it. Don Callis is just so annoying. Like, I don't know. He's just so unlikable. I've said this before, but there was a period in my life, and I distinctly remember it. I remember sitting on a tube thinking, whatever happened to Don Callis? And not long after that, he popped up with his podcast with F4W member Lance Storm. And I was like, wow, that's so cool that Don Callis has returned and he's doing a podcast with Lance Storm. And anyway, now we can't escape Don Callis. I can't even escape him in real life. I saw this man like 4 times when I was in London. Don, take another hiatus. But I don't know. He's annoying and not in a good heel heat way. But the Callis family is so messy. I wish that Will could move on from them. Kyle Fletcher has amazing potential. I wish he could move on from them. Takeshita is like fucking great. It's like one of my top 5 favorite current wrestlers. One of my top 3 current favorite men. I wish someone else was managing him, or no one was managing him. I'll manage Takeshita. But Don Callis is just like this a self-serving pop the boys guy that we're only getting rid of if there's a massive coup backstage. And then we'll get the end of Don Callis, because I think he makes himself useful backstage too. So anyway, thanks, Don. In 2 weeks, Friday Night Dynamite, Swerve versus Shelton. Halloween themed. Let's fucking go. Yes. Next up, Ricochet spoke. Ricochet hasn't been pinned. And he's having a match with AR Fox on Collision, I think. So that should be pretty good. And AR Fox, we haven't heard about him in a while. All right, the Blackpool Combat Club X members, Moxley's crew, the Mox Gang, whatever we want to call them, they're assaulting the Dark Order, Top Flight, and Action fucking Andretti. They've left them all laying. They get back in their pickup truck. John Silver's running after the truck. Evil Uno is like, Evil Uno's been in AEW for day one. If BCC want to fight, they'll have to go through them. And then Top Flight and Action Andretti challenge them for a collision. God, it's Geek Squad, guys. It's Geek Squad, you know. I'm sorry. I can't. The Dark Order long past their sell-by date. I think the time I was done with Evil Uno was when I found out that his wife called herself Mrs. Uno, and then that she brought out a statement when they separated. And I was just like, what? Like, I was just like, I'm sorry, but imagine being married to Evil Uno, this masked guy who plays video games online, wearing a mask yourself and doing his gimmick but female form, and then having to put out a statement when you separate. That's bizarre. But yeah, I just like I think that sometimes we have to realize when ships have sailed for people, right? And I do think there's a chance for Private Party. I don't think there's a chance for Top Flight, and I don't think there's a chance for Action Andretti. I really don't. And the Dark Order, the ship has sailed so far that we can't even see it, right? So I think if you're going to have baby faces banding together to fight this evil faction, okay, Orange Cassidy, great, because he's day one and he's a name, he's a star. People love Orange Cassidy. You know that someone knows nothing about AEW when they make fun of Orange Cassidy as a wrestler or anything like that. He's so fucking great. Darby Allin, people have forever love for Darby Allin, right? Daniel Garcia is good because he's still young enough, even though he's hit his roadblocks and obstacles. One is shaped like Jericho and the next one was shaped like MJF. So even though he's hit those roadblocks, there's still a feeling of potential that he's young enough that we could do something with him. So I think we need guys like that. And I think putting the Dark Order in, I mean, I think I could beat Evil Uno, to be honest. It's just, the Dark Order is from a different era of AEW that we've passed. And that era was that there was a lot of great Dark Order stuff, right? And Mr. Brody Lee was a huge, huge part of that. But after that, there was a lot of Dark Order stuff that was forgivable because of the time of AEW that we were in, where there was so much great stuff that was hitting. We're not in that point anymore. So the Dark Order being in this was just a no for me. All right. We have one more segment left, or one more match left. So if you have any questions for me before I say bye-bye, you may get them ready. But you have time to type, because I have to get into what the fuck happened in this main event. There were some silly billies in this main event, I must say. Christian Cage versus Jay White. Jay White is in the main event. Excellent. Jay White got a win over Hangman Page at the pay-per-view, a significant win. So awesome to follow up with it on Dynamite. This match wasn't the best. It was kind of slow. It was kind of the things that people don't like about Jay White, but I was into it. But then we had something happen that I'm not even sure I can explain. Kip Sabian comes out, and like Christian was signaling for the spear, and Kip comes out. And what it seems like maybe happened was that Kip came out for the wrong spear, because Christian seemed to be like, no, not this one. But Kip coming out triggered Hangman Page coming out. So everything was fucked up. And then Hangman Page ended up having to hide and make comical faces. And then we get Kip coming out to distract the referee as Jay White tries the Blade Runner, and then Hangman Page hits the buckshot, and then Hangman Page lies on the floor hiding, but Jay White obviously knows what happened because he's like laughing. So I don't know why Hangman was hiding. I think that Kip made a mistake here of when he was coming out. And I feel like Christian, being the older ring general, should have called an audible and just gone through with what was meant to happen then. So that wouldn't have led to Kip then having to repeat himself and Hangman having to hide. And I'm going to mention Michael Sidgwick again. He said something that probably sounds quite harsh, but is true. He was basically like, this is why you don't have people of Kip Sabian's level on TV. And I have to say, I agree with that. He's not, nor has he ever been mainstream TV ready, like national TV ready. And I understand that Tony likes him a lot and he's a day one guy, but he wasn't up for the task here, and he potentially set off a chain of events that led to a really bad looking finish where it was all quite comical and embarrassing. And I saw many people being like, Hangman Page was being such a serious character, and then he's making these cartoon faces. I don't think Page would have ever done that if it hadn't been for what happened with Kip. So, who is the silly Billy? You think I'm going to say Kip Sabian, but I think it's actually Tony Khan for putting Kip in the spot. The positive I can say is that we ended Dynamite with the visual of Jay White laughing. That's something that he does, like that I love, like that's his reaction. I do like that they're continuing the Jay White Hangman feud, because I previously complained that I didn't get the week to week build, the promo battles, all that stuff that I wanted, and I can get it now if we're continuing it. And maybe they'll have a match when I'm there. Maybe they'll have a match at Full Gear when I'm there. So I like all of that, but it's just an unfortunate ending. And also Hangman, who is an unhinged maniac, is also unaffected by unhinged maniac Jon Moxley. And Jay has set out that he wants a shot at the title and to get back into the title picture. But the title is held by Jon Moxley, so if he ever gets there, he has to step into Moxley's universe. And Christian Cage is holding the, let's call it, Money in the Bank contract, But it looks like he's not going to cash that in when Moxley is champion, because why do that? Because Moxley's a maniac. And I have a strong feeling that Christian winning the contract was a Daniel Bryan call, and Daniel Bryan did not do all the matches he was meant to do before retiring, and I think he wanted to have one with Christian, just because of the respect he has for Christian, and he wasn't able to do it, and that's not something I've had confirmed, but in a recent Wade Keller report, he spoke to he said this on his show with Rich Fan, that he spoke to a wrestler that was angry that Danielson's arm was twisted into doing the Okada match, which to me says that Danielson was not medically fit to do the Okada match. Not that he shouldn't have been cleared, but if he wanted to go out on the best that he could, he should have been resting until the Moxley match. So I do feel like there were matches that Danielson didn't get to do. And I think one of them was probably Christian, which could have started with Christian cashing in his contract at an opportune moment. But now it feels like Christian has to keep hold of this contract till someone less scary is champion. And maybe Jay has to be distracted by Hangman until someone less hinged champion. But I don't know, like, that's my review of the show. To me, there was just a lot of plot holes that make me question this story. I don't think the Moxley storyline is going to turn live attendance or ratings around. I think that's a problem. And on Wednesday, I wrote out in a message the AEW Championship lineage, and Mox is now a 4-time champion because of the times that CM Punk had to vacate, and like, that is wild to me that we're like at this point. And I know it's like, it's a new Moxley, it's a different Moxley, but at the same time, like, we're back to Moxley as champion, and I get that he had a great idea. And you know, this Moxley character is based on stuff Moxley was going through in real life, because he wasn't happy with the direction of the promotion and where the promotion was going. So he's been allowed to do this. And I think it will make for good TV in a vacuum, but I would love someone that works in AEW, like whoever has been promoted to Jimmy Jacobs' role, right? Whoever that is. So whether it's Will Washington or RJ City or RD Evans or Sanjay Dutt, make a big diagram with everyone in AEW, where their feuds are at, how they interlock. Make some kind of diagram where you can see like how we can make this make sense. And all of you writers talk to each other. So in this diagram, you would see what I was saying about Mark Briscoe, like Mark Briscoe being there as a good guy to help Brian and his alignment with Orange Cassidy. But then he's in this feud with Jericho. And if you do this diagram, it might start making you think how we get these other pieces to all exist in the same universe, you know? Because it's so disjointed. It's so disjointed. And I don't think it needs to be anything really grand or stuff, but just like making it make sense. Because you did have that bit where Jon Moxley weeks ago kind of complimented Jungle Boy, Jack Perry, I mean. So he's done that for a reason. Maybe he sees Jack as a guy that stepped up. But like, maybe if you had even just like a backstage bit where Moxley goes up to Jericho and is like, you're safe for now, you know, like you helped you build this company or whatever, so like you're safe for now. And maybe, and like some kind of interaction between Mox and MJF, which is just something to like really tie it all together. So we know why everyone isn't kind of just freaking out about what's going on, because what Moxley did to Danielson, the paper bag stuff, is so extreme and so violent that if you're MJF, Jericho, Adam Cole, Swerve Strickland, like anyone, Jay White, Hangman Page on this roster, you should be scared that you could be next. You know, like these guys should all like have a meeting and be like, what criteria is he using to come after us? You know, who could be next? I don't know, but I just want it to all fit together. There's a lot of jigsaw puzzle pieces that are very good, but they're just not all slotting together properly. All right, I'm just about done. I'll answer Maria's question. How'd you book Mariah May next with her championship reign? I'd honestly have her drop it to Willow. I don't think it's been a good reign at all. I think that she needs to develop like her character. I think they put so much work into her story with Tony, but left her as very much a blank slate once Tony was gone. And I'd have her drop it. And she can have her big match with Tony, not for the title, but for me, I'm looking at Willow and thinking, why is she not the women's champion? Especially we're at this point where every title holder in the company is a heel. And we're talking here about strong baby faces, right? Surely what Moxley's doing should have some effect on the women too. And what better baby face to be on the side of good than Willow Nightingale? So yeah, I would. She's having an eliminator match against Anna Jay on Battle of the Belts, I think, which is a show that is dead and buried. Why is it an eliminator? We know Anna Jay is not going to win. And Anna Jay, like I said on my WrestleDream review, not ready for national TV. She's on the Kip Sabian level, just like you shouldn't be on TNT or TBS. And it's wild when you see people like Queen Amanada, Willow, Chris Statlander, what Athena is doing over in Ring of Honor, and we're finding TV time for Anna Jay and Harley Cameron and people like that, when it's like, just like play your ace cards in a division so small as the AEW women's division. Like, just play the aces. Really, I'd send Anna Jay on another excursion. Yeah, Mo, says you hit the nail on the head. How do we get the women's division involved in the company-wide story arc? Marina's not going anywhere near the women's division, so I think that's out. When it comes to Marina as a wrestler, it's going to be really, really hard, because she should be able to kill everyone in the women's division. We might need an explanation from Marina about why she doesn't wrestle in the women's division. There was always a problem with China when it came to this, and when China was around, they pretty much didn't have a women's division, and then they like tried to do one, and then China ended up wrestling men, and it was all pretty messy. I don't know what you do with Marina, but if she explained why she's not wrestling in the women's division, that would be cool. And I'm sure she wants to have matches and stuff, but I don't think she should wrestle, because she would just have to kill everyone. Like everyone. Like, you've got Mariah May with the championship while Marina Shafir exists and the stuff she's doing on TV. It's wild. Beast Martian, do you think AEW Women's Division would benefit from a tag division title? No. I don't. I don't think another title is going to get them any more TV time. I think so many of them just need reps, and they should be getting that in the indies or Japan or somewhere else. Just throwing up another title is not going to help the women's division, because I actually think it's going to like lessen things, because they're still only going to get one match in Dynamite. And then I think a lot of stuff is going to be pushed to Collision or RIP Rampage, and it's not going to be well booked. You know, I every week the Wrestle Culture lads do the ladies' night joke where they guess what time the women's match is, and they talk about how women's matches on Dynamite, women's stuff is booked in a way that just feels like they're ticking a box or being like, well, we can't not have women on it. And that is how the women's division in AEW has always felt. It's just something that's done because it's 2024 and you have to have women. And they've never been able to solve that problem, even while doing good long-term storylines like Mariah and Tony, you know. Okay, that's me out, guys. I'm sorry that this was like a downer stream and that I wasn't excited to talk about the show, but I think doing this stream actually helped me because I got everything out, and I hope that you all understood what I was trying to say about the plot holes and things that are making sense, and why though I really enjoyed WrestleDream, why this Dynamite left me sighing a bit and left me feeling like, oh, maybe we're not back. Maybe we have like more problems than we can deal with. But anyway, I just hope you enjoyed listening to me. Whether you agree with me or not, I appreciate you listening, and I love talking to you guys and hearing what you have to say. We never have to agree. It's just great having open dialogue about these things, and I love how wonderful and respectful my audience are. It really helps me if you like the video, and it really helps me if you leave a comment. So if you've watched the whole thing, like, you can leave a nice comment. If you can't think of anything to say, leave an emoji, maybe a teddy bear or a cat, things that I like. But yeah, I'll see you next time. If you liked this stream at this time more than me doing it in the mornings earlier in the day, let me know as well. But thanks again, guys, and I will see you next week. Bye.